Scientists gave a woman 12 t-shirts. 6 have been worn by people with Parkinson's disease. 6 have been worn by people without it. She smelled them and identified the people with Parkinson's. But then she pointed to one of the healthy shirts. She said that they had it too. The scientist marked her answers wrong. 8 months later, the person diagnosed with Parkinson's. Her name is Joy Milne, and Joy can do something most of us apparently can't. She can smell a disease. Not blood, not medication, not someone's hospital room. The disease itself appears to change the chemical signature of oils on a person's skin. And Joy noticed that smell years before she understood what it meant, because the first person she ever smelled it on was her husband. His name was Les. Long before Parkinson's became part of their lives, Joy noticed something about him had changed. His smell. She later described it as a strange musky odor. It wasn't simply bad body odor. It was something different, something she hadn't noticed before. And at the time, there was no reason for her to connect a smell with a neurological disease. Why would there be? So life continued until Les was eventually diagnosed with Parkinson's. Even then, Joy didn't immediately realize that the smell mattered. It would take years before she walked into a room and smelled it again. Except this time, it wasn't coming from Les. Joy was attending a Parkinson's support event, and almost immediately she recognized it. The same strange smell, except several people in the room had it. People with Parkinson's. Imagine realizing that something you'd noticed privately for years might not have been random at all. Joy eventually brought the observation to researchers. The claim sounded extraordinary because Parkinson's isn't something doctors diagnose by asking you to breathe into a machine or by swabbing your skin. Diagnosis is primarily clinical. Doctors look for characteristic symptoms and neurological signs. So, the researchers had a very reasonable question. Was Joy actually smelling Parkinson's, or did she simply believe she could? There was a wonderfully simple way to find out. T-shirts. 12 people participated in the pilot test. 6 had Parkinson's. 6 were controls. They were cotton T-shirts, which were then collected and presented to Joy without telling her which belonged to whom. Now, she couldn't see a tremor. She couldn't watch someone walk. She couldn't recognize a patient. All she had was smell. Joy classified all of the 6 Parkinson samples correctly. Then came the controls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Correct. But the 6th, Joy said Parkinson's. According to the researchers, no. The person was a control. Joy had apparently made one mistake. 11 out of 12. Still remarkable, except it wasn't 11. Months later, the person whose shirt Joy had identified as Parkinson's contacted the researchers. They had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. The supported false positive may not have been false at all. Joy had apparently detected something before the person's clinical diagnosis. And suddenly, the question wasn't, can this woman really smell Parkinson's? It became, what exactly is she smelling? Your skin is constantly producing an oily substance called sebum. You probably know it as a part of what makes your skin and hair oily. But chemically, sebum is complicated. It contains mixtures of lipids and other compounds. And some of those compounds or products associated with them can contribute to odor. Researchers working with Joy began investigating whether the chemistry of sebum was different in people with Parkinson's. Using analytical chemistry techniques, including mass spectrometry, they examined compounds associated with characteristic odor. And they found something important. Sebum from people with Parkinson's showed a different chemical profile from controls. Researchers identified several volatile compounds whose relative abundance contributed to the distinctive odor Joy recognized. Joy wasn't smelling a mystical disease aura. She appeared to be detecting a chemical difference, one that most human noses simply didn't notice. Which raises an obvious question. If people with Parkinson's can have a distinctive odor, why aren't we all walking around smelling it? Because Joy appears to have an unusually sensitive sense of smell, a condition or trait often described as hyperosmia. Think about how differently two people can experience the same sound. One person doesn't notice a faint electrical hum, another finds it impossible to ignore. Smells can vary too, and Joy's nose appears sensitive enough to distinguish a chemical pattern that disappears into background noise for most of us. But researchers realize something much more important. We don't actually need everyone to have Joy's nose. We need to understand what our nose is detecting. Because once you know that diseases may leave a measurable chemical fingerprint, you can try to build instruments that detect it. Researchers have continued studying sebum as a potential source of Parkinson's biomarkers. Imagine the difference. Instead of waiting until obvious symptoms lead someone towards neurological evaluation, perhaps one day clinicians could collect something as simple as skin swab and analyze chemical signature. We're not there yet. Joy's ability is not currently a standard diagnostic test for Parkinson's, and smelling different does not mean someone should diagnose themselves or anyone else with the disease. But the research has opened an unusual path towards potential biomarkers, all because one person noticed something almost everyone else couldn't. And Parkinson's may not be the only reason this matters. Your body is constantly releasing chemical information through your breath, your sweat, your skin, your urine, your blood. Metabolism leaves traces everywhere. Diseases can alter metabolism, which means diseases can sometimes alter those traces. Animals already demonstrate how powerful smell can be. Dogs have extraordinarily sensitive olfactory systems, and researchers have investigated their ability to detect chemical signatures associated with several diseases. But Joy's story demonstrates something stranger. Under unusual circumstances, a human being can notice signals hidden in that chemistry too. Think about that t-shirt. To the researchers, it belonged to someone without Parkinson's. To almost anyone else, it probably smelled like a shirt. But Joy smelled something different, something that apparently matched what she had smelled on people with Parkinson's. And months later, the medical diagnosis caught up. That doesn't mean a human nose is going to replace neurologists. It means something much more interesting. The disease may have been changing the body's chemistry before its presence was clinically recognized. Joy simply had a way of noticing it. There may be information about your body being released into the world right now. Information you can't see, can't hear, and can't smell. Not because it isn't there, but because your senses weren't built to detect it. Joy's extraordinary nose gave scientists a clue, and now they're trying to build technology sensitive enough to follow it. But sometimes, the body whispers that something is wrong long before we know how to listen.